Children, would you like to see a whore get honored at the Oscars? Hello, my children. Hello, good people. Good people. Hello. Welcome back to Orange Hats and the weekly recap. We're going to be discussing all sorts of fucking shit. Crazy shit at the Oscars. Sex workers being honored. Alec Baldwin flipping his shit.
Again.
Gene Hackman, may you rest in peace.
Yes.
What else do we got? Rachel Zegler. Apparently, she's actually, she's got mature. She's achieved or unlocked maturity. Apparently, yeah, she unlocked maturity. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. What else? We also got Air Force One discussion, obviously, and I want to clarify some stuff from a previous video that I did, which was a rant video about Kathleen Kennedy. But before we get all started, if you want to support this channel, like the stream, support my channel on YouTube. It doesn't cost a thing. Just a moment of your time, liking some videos, watching some videos, subscribing to the channel. I mean, I'm trying to get to 2,000. I may sub or I may monetize. I may not. I'm still edging on the not going to because I ain't in it for money. I'm here to inform people, you know? And also, hey, Alex Webb, good to see you. Good to see you. And yes, hell of an intro. Yeah, damn right, man. And who be, oh, yes. Also, I do tomorrow's new theme, which is March Madness. It's not about sports. It ain't about sports, folks. I could give a shit about sports. No, March Madness is I am going to be discussing the madness of main characters in 4 different movies. The first one next week, or tomorrow rather, is Clyde Shelton from Law Abiding Citizen. This is a movie that I had just discussed last week with Mara on the singles. And Gerard Butler, man, think Punisher without Frank Castle and without morality. Like absolute amorality. Amoral, whatever it is. Completely
amoral. Yeah,
that one. Yeah. I mean, folks, this or the madness. Yes, you will, or I will be breaking down this man's madness and basically going over what is a bit of a stretch and what is not a bit of a stretch, if there is a bit of a stretch or not a bit of a stretch. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Also, Wednesday, going to be gone all day because it's family day. Ones and twos are going to be on Mars channel this month in the later half of the season or week or month. 2 barroom podcasts on Tuesdays. I will be on the first 2 of the month. However, I will not be on the other 2 due to the fact that I will be doing the singles on that night because of schedule conflict due to personal shit going around. So, yeah, I just want you to all know that the singles will be on X Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. instead of me joining the Barroom podcast. And I'll also still be doing the theme streams too. But yeah, and so let's get this shit started. Ambassador, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Cannot complain.
Yep.
Working on my own stuff on my channel. So all that
Awesome.
Yep.
What kind of stuff you got?
Well, me and Mam and Bester are going to be doing a series of reviews this month. Going to be discussing the better known and I think much more popular versions of the tale of Snow White. We're also going to be discussing some of the gems from the past from within the Disney Vault. Going to be discussing the Little Mermaid and Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, the original Snow White, the one that started the whole thing with Walt Disney Studios, Snow White and the Huntsman, Mirror Mirror, Ever After. It's going to be a magical March over on the Ambassadorial Wing. Let's say it that way.
All right, Magic or March Magic and March Madness. March Magic on his channel, March Madness on my channel. And Vanya, no. I ain't done with the bar room. I'm still going to be on the bar room. Tomorrow night I'm going to be on the bar room, and the next week. It's just that the final 2 weeks of of March, I will not be doing the bar room because I'm going to be doing my single stream due to schedule conflict and having to take care of stuff in the personal life on Thursdays. So yeah.
Pay attention, Vanya. Listen very carefully.
Yeah, I haven't left the bar room. No. It's just that I have to do maybe a couple months of changing shit around. That's all.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's get into these topics, man. The first one, Anora wins Best Picture at the Oscars, and whores are honored by the lead actress. Yes, folks. Yes, I said the word whores. Because that's basically what sex work is. You are whoring yourself out. And I am not going to share the audio. I am not even going to play this video. She is giving tribute and paying tribute to the sex workers. And yeah, it's disgusting. Basically, Mikey Madison accepts award for Best Actress for her role in Anora, taking a moment to recognize and honor the sex worker community. I will continue to support and be an ally. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, seriously, folks, I watched this movie. It's nothing special. Get the shit off the screen. Where is it? There it is. Folks, Mikey Madison, I first saw her, I believe, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that was her.
It might have been.
One of the as one of the chicks or she's the one that got the can right in the nose.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And then I saw her in Scream 5, the worst Scream movie I have ever seen because it labels me, Ambassador, and everybody else in the movie online community as serial killers. Radicalized by psychosis and shit. Yeah, that's what Scream 5 did, folks. It said anybody who's passionate about franchises are psycho killers. I'm not joking. So yeah, she was one of the killers in that one. Spoiler, she gets killed. Yeah. You don't need to see it.
I stopped at Scream 4. I have not gone back.
Good. No need to. I mean, best to leave it with don't fuck with the original. Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
But Mikey Madison, sweetie. This was an independent film. And if you want to be a supporter of women who, pimp themselves or get pimped out and choose to live that kind of life, well, okay, that is your prerogative. That is your prerogative. Yeah, that word. Alex Webb, seriously, is death. I will be getting to that when we get to the topic of Gene Hackman. Do not worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I'm sorry. This is what the Oscars has become, folks. I watched the Raven Awards, the Raven Awards on OMB Reviews channel. And I also had to push back the stream to tonight because of the OMB Reviews stream, as well as shitty internet. I mean, being able to watch the stream was taxing enough because it was skipping shit out of the dialogue, but I managed to catch about 75% of it. And if I would have tried to do the screen or sharing the screen and shit last night, I would have been botting all over the place. I wouldn't have had a stable signal at all. 20 degree below zero temperatures. That's what it was. So yeah, that stuff can affect internet, especially with the wind that was kicking up too, making it feel like minus 40.
Not fun.
No, not fun at all. When you are sleeping in a house that has only a propane heat, yeah, not fun. But anyway, what are your thoughts, Ambassador? The Horrors of Babylon have been honored at the Oscars.
Well, considering the rampant degeneracy of the society in Hollywood, not to mention the rampant degeneracy of the entertainment industry as more or less as a whole, this is pretty much par for the course. Eventually, somebody, some little nobody or some major body was going to do a movie about hookers. And then going to say, I really appreciate and support the hookers. I mean, this is a movie that nobody saw, nobody cared to see, at least as far as I understand. Yes, it was, I guess, moderately successful at the box office. I really don't know. I don't particularly care. I didn't see the movie. From what I hear, it was pretty much a high budget, and I say this from past experience, not current. It was essentially a high budget. Okay, it was a semi-high budget independent Bang Brothers film.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, a sex worker, she falls in love with this Russian oligarch's son and basically marries him. Or, yeah, and it's a whole fucking thing from there. It's a dumb fucking movie, folks. All it is basically masturbation material for people who can't get off their couches and weigh 500 pounds. That's basically all it is. It's incel masturbation material.
More likely.
That's all it is.
So.
But yeah, moving on. I feel dirty just talking about that. We're gonna get back to. Hey, right, Kitty, good to see you. We're gonna Sakura Amita. I don't play games anymore, so Post 2, I have no idea. Sorry, but hey, right, Kitty, good to see you. Good to see you. So yes, the next banner, folks. Achievement unlocked for Rachel Zegler, except that it's not really achievement unlocked being maturity. She did an interview, and well, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna read it for you guys. Apparently, yeah. Well, it's about passion, and we're not always gonna agree with everyone. I mean, does Disney really think our memories? I mean, I have memory slips, folks, where I can't remember words every now and then. But my memory over the last couple of years is not as bad as the memory slips of words. I can remember when Rachel Zegler shit on the fans, shit on the original Snow White. Gal Gadot also did so too. Then Rachel Zegler turned it into a political fest, Free Palestine, and saying that the Prince's lines and role could be cut out of the movie altogether. Hollywood, baby. I mean, I remember all of that and much, much more. But now apparently, Disney is like, bitch, you're gonna say this shit in an interview, and you are going to make it as if you thought it up yourself. And she did a terrible job. That was a failed. They gave her an impossible task. She failed it before she was even given the task. Because let's face it, folks, there ain't no way that she said or thought this shit up herself. Yeah. So let's get into this. Rachel Zegler says live action Snow White backlash is due to passion for the original movie. We're not always going to agree with everyone. No shit, Sherlock. So, Walt Disney's live action re-release has seen better days since 2019's Lion King Snow White rehash has been a particular point of contention in some circles due to Rachel Zegler's Colombian heritage. Bullshit. Well, a little bit. because there are some assholes out there. It's like 1% of the human population that is racist. So yeah. The outrage came to a head when the Y2K star, you mean the movie that bombed that nobody heard about, called the 1937 original dated, featuring a prince that literally stalks Snow White. Weird. Zegler now says she interprets the controversies as overprotective reaction to a beloved Disney classic. Overprotective? Overprotective? If it was overprotective, we would have burned Disney to the ground.
Yeah, metaphorically and maybe
That's
figuratively. Literally.
Overprotective. What we've done, what we're doing to your movie, that's what's known as accountability. Your movie's gonna fail. You ain't getting a box office success from this movie, Rachel. You are going to be forever known as the woman who they tried to put on a pedestal and ended up getting the bottom part of the pedestal shoved up her ass by accident due to the failure of movies. I interpret people's sentiments toward this film as passion. What an honor to be a part of something that feels so passionately about. We are not always going to agree with everyone who surrounds us, and we can all do our best. Quotes were independently translated from Spanish to English by Variety. I thought she didn't speak Spanish. Weird.
That has got to be the biggest crock I've ever heard. That goes on, I guess.
Well, she continued. I understand that the conversation comes from the community not wanting to be seen as a monolith. Really? But the reality of being Latina, not Latino, but Latina, and working in the industry, I mean, she fucking misgendered herself in this industry, is that we try to represent the entire diaspora. I know where I've been. I represent it in all my narrative, and I carry it in my heart every day. No one can tell me that it's not a part of me. Nobody is trying to.
Make me
Shortly after her Snow White casting was unveiled, Rachel reacted to the online backlash, actors on actors, saying that the discourse on X, then called Twitter, went on for days because of all the people were angry. We need to love them in the right direction, she said at the time.
Yo, mama.
Really? We need to love them in the right direction. Bitch, what happened after November the 5th last year? Oh, right. May Trump and his supporters never know peace. Yeah. At the end of the day, I have a job to do, and I'm really excited. I get to be a Latina princess. You're not even going to be a Latina princess. You're going to be just a Disney fucking princess. Because guess what? Snow White isn't from fucking Mexico or Colombia. Hate to break it to you folks, but if she thinks that she is going to be this, I don't know, Colombian princess, no, she is just simply a fucking princess. She ain't, or Snow White isn't, or Snow White is from fucking fairy tale land. Some place in fairy tale land that's not Colombia. Sorry, that's just the truth. But apparently she can't handle the truth. But yeah, this whole interview reeks of coaching. I mean, Ambassador, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, because she is pretty much I would guarantee you she has been in talks either over video call or something else with the publicity team for Snow White and maybe a few other minor higher-ups at Disney itself, and they're telling her, you're going to go out there and you're going to do a nice little publicity tour before this movie comes out, and we're going to try and do some damage control. But here's the kicker. People don't forget stuff like May They Never Know Peace. when you have insulted over half of the population of the United States? Not to mention, this is a remake of a movie that nobody asked for. Now, granted, we have not asked for remakes of any of these movies. Not a one. Now, I will say there have been a couple that have actually been pretty good. I will give credit where credit is due. But the majority have been tripe, excuse me. They have been tripe. They have been without merit. They have been without any level of creativity. And in this instance, they royally screwed the freaking pooch from the jump. You didn't have dwarves, you had magical creatures, and then you couldn't even cast actual dwarvish actors in the roles of the 7 freaking dwarves, one of the most well-known iconic group of characters from Disney, period, if not from all of fairy tale myth. Then you cast an actress, which I will say I like Gal Gadot as an actress. I may not always agree with everything that she says socially or politically. That's fine. I think she's a good actress. But you cast an actress who's more beautiful and more attractive than your lead. I mean, let's be honest here. Gal Gadot, she's a fox. She's a babe. Yes, she's married. Yes, she's got kids. Okay, fine. But you can still acknowledge the woman is beautiful. She is 10 times more beautiful than Rachel Zegler is. You've got an evil queen who's more, I would say, charismatic and more beautiful than Snow White. That's why the hashtag has been popping up. May we evil queen wins, or something to that effect.
Who's the fairest one of all? You are, queen.
You are, queen. You're Gal Gadot. You were Wonder Woman. You were in Death on the Nile. You were great in Death on the Nile. You've done other stuff too. You were great in that. We like you. We actually want the evil queen to win because we want to see Snow White dead. Because she's being played by a horrifically untalented and a horrific individual in the person of Rachel Zegler. The only real talent this woman has is she can sing moderately well. And that's me being generous. She's not that pretty. She's not that talented, really. She's got a moderately decent voice. That's about all she's got going for her. And she was supposed to be the new it girl for Hollywood. Guess what? She ain't the new it girl. She's the new nothing. When this movie bombs, and I would imagine it probably is going to, it's going to be the nail in the coffin of her freaking career. After this, she's going to be lucky if she does the Lifetime Movie of the Week or the month.
Apparently there's a video out, or they came out on stage together.
No, Zegler.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that Zegler is such an anti-Semitic bitch, it's not her acting and it's not her voice. It's who she is as a person.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Take it for what you got, y'all will. She is a good actress. She does sing very well. I hate to break that to you guys, but she does.
Fine.
I know
that's just
because I listen
objective
to a
fact.
lot of different musicians.
And that's
But
your
she
that's
sucks as a person.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yes.
So that's all I said.
That was our Mad Ambassador minute for the episode.
Hey, if she wants to make it more than one, she can, or she's happy to do so.
Okay. Anyway.
But yeah, folks. Objectively, okay. Apparently, we have an objective standpoint from Madam Ambassador that she's a good singer. Okay, cool. She sucks as a person. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
apparently there's a video where they came out to where her and Gal Gadot came out to announce the nominees for best visual effects.
Sorry,
There's not enough visual effects to make her fairer than Gal Gadot. Sorry.
Not hardly.
Yeah. As for this, I'm sorry, Rachel. You made people. You yourself did this to yourself. You yourself did this to your movie. And Gal, I'm sorry, I ain't gonna watch the movie. As much as I love you as an actress, y'all fucked up. And this is what's known as accountability. You are going to know that when you talk shit about the 1937 film, I will not support your shit. Also, it's Disney. I ain't supporting it. So, yeah. Moving on to the next one, folks, we are going to blast through these as quickly as possible. I need to make some clarifications, folks. You see, I did a rant the other day where I said that Kathleen Kennedy isn't retired. Apparently, she's not retired because I got some bad information from Geeks and Gamers with their headline about this very article from Deadline. I will never retire and shit like that. It's like, that is my fault for not going into the article itself for the rant. The video would have been a lot longer. It's more, or this article is more appropriate for a live stream. But the fact that that article or that post from Geeks and Gamers was rather poorly worded for the context of the article, shout out to Hardwick Bentho for pointing this out. Ancient One, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. Make sure that you all smash the like button. But yeah, folks, apparently she is leaving, but she's not making, or she's not going to stop making movies. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy speaks on her Lucasfilm plans. She's not soon retiring, and films that will keep her in Star Wars orbit for years to come. But yet they said she was stepping down at the end of the year. What the fuck? So we're going to get into the, or not the article, but rather the interview. So we've read all these spectacular reports that you are out. And there's a frenzy for the next person who's going to take over Lucasfilm. What is the truth? The truth is, and I want to just say this loud and clear, I am not retiring. I will never retire from movies. I will die making movies. This is the shit that I ranted about. That's the first thing that's important to say. I am not retiring. What's happening at Lucasfilm is I have been talking for quite some time with Bob Iger and Alan of what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bench of people here, and we have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road. We are in lockstep with as to what's that going to be. And I'm continuing. I'm producing Mandalorian movie right now, and I am also producing Sean Levy's movie, which is after that. So I'm continuing to stay on Lucasfilm and looking very thoughtfully with Bob and Alan as to who's stepping in. So that is all underway. And we have every right to make that announcement when we want to make it. So in that alone, she has said that she's not stepping down, but yet that she is stepping down, but that she's not stepping down and yet still is stepping down. Are you all, are all of your heads still spinning right now? I know mine is. What are you looking at? Within seems to give credence to what we've heard, or that you are looking within seems, yeah, that an exec like chief creator Dave Filoni is in a good position as he works on the Star Wars to write and direct. I cannot say who it is because there's just an internal process that goes on inside a large corporation and publicly held company. Filoni is the worst choice, folks, by the way. Oh, but he knows Star Wars so well. He fucking doesn't know shit about Star Wars compared to the people I know who know a lot about Star Wars. Oh, just because he studied at the foot of George Lucas doesn't mean he paid attention. And how do we go about making deals, finalizing decisions, and making announcements? There's nothing unusual about that. We're in the process, and we're in that process. This flurry of press coverage, it sounds like chaos. What's the reality? Chaos? There's never been any chaos because we know exactly what the plan is. And we've been talking about it. As I said, nonstop for the last couple of years because, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to be here forever. George Lucas asked me 13 years ago to step in, and you sucked at it. And now I'm looking at who's going to replace me. And as I said, we have a bench of people internally handling the business, yada, yada, yada. So, folks, all this is I'm retiring, but I'm not retiring. I'm retiring, but I'm not retiring. I'm retiring, but I'm not retiring. She's staying in, by her own fucking words, for years. She ain't stepping down now. So, yeah, apparently my rant may have been inaccurate, but it actually is accurate, but it's not accurate, so it is accurate. Make up your fucking minds. My video is not going to be taken down, folks. I'm sorry. After reading this interview, which I have already read several times, I am doing this basically so that you all can see. This is horseshit. This is fucking horseshit. She's saying she's not retiring, so I was right about that. She ain't going anywhere. She ain't going anywhere. Y'all got fucking played. We all got fucking played. Again, we all got fucking played. So my video is accurate. It's not. I forgot to change the banner.
Yeah, she did. I was about to say something to you.
Yeah, so, yeah. My video is accurate. My rant video is accurate. We got fucking played. Am I wrong?
I would say we were all duped to a extreme level, and I think it was. I would say a big part of that was due to the inaccurate and sloppy reporting of a group that claims to be for and by and is geeks and gamers, but is by no means knows anything about what it means to be a geek or be a gamer. And here's the thing: there was rampant misinformation. I hate to use this term because I know it's more of a political term, but I think in this context it's appropriate. There was a lot of misinformation as to the legitimacy of what Miss Kennedy, or well, rather, Mrs. Kennedy Marshall, whatever way you want to put it, what her plans are. Now, that interview, that sounded like a lot of political double speak or double talk because it sounds like something that a politician would say, not a film executive or a studio executive. Yeah. At least that's how I interpreted it. That's just my 2 cents. But as far as having a stable or a bench of people to take over for her, you got 2, maybe 3 people at the most. You got Filoni, you've got Favreau, you've got whoever is her second there under her at Lucasfilm, and maybe 1 or 2 others, but that is by no means a bench or a stable. Let's be honest here. Anybody who follows after Kennedy is going to have an uphill freaking battle if they can succeed at bringing Lucasfilm back at all.
They aren't because they're going to be following her. They're going to be following her lead.
Unfortunately, yeah. Now, do I think it's impossible for Lucasfilm to be salvaged? No, not necessarily. But is it going to be difficult as hell? Yeah, it is. Because regardless of the spin within the entertainment industry and maybe within particular circles of the Star Wars fandom, let's be honest here. The franchise is not in a good place. Not really. Now, do I have any... I speak just for myself, but I think I speak for a fair fraction or a fair percentage of the fandom or the fan base. Do I have any vested interest in any of the future projects that are coming out from Lucasfilm in regards to Star Wars? Not particularly. I have absolutely no confidence. This is like the scene from episode 1. I call for a vote of no confidence in Supreme Chancellor Kennedy.
Yeah.
full pun intended. She's like Chancellor Valorum. She's hanging out by her. I would say she's hanging out by her fingernails and everything in terms of her position. I don't know what kind of dirt she's got on Iger or whoever else there at Disney proper, but the wonder that she still has her job defies probability. Now, am I saying she's the all-out devil of this whole thing? No, that's going into extreme hyperbole, which I will not engage in here. But she's eventually going to retire. As far as making movies, Kathy, sweetie, everybody's going to remember what you did to Star Wars, and you think anybody's going to forgive or forget? Not particularly.
Pretty much anything she has her paws in nowadays sucks.
Yeah.
She didn't just kill Star Wars. She also killed fucking Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Well, and I think the parody of her that the producers of South Park did with the Pandaverse with Cartman Kennedy is fairly accurate.
Make
her gay and make her lame.
Make her gay and lame.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. But as far as the reporting on this story, I think there was a lot of irresponsibility done. I think and this is not me throwing shade at you, but I am saying the people that were reporting on these reports should have done more thorough research and verification on exactly what Kennedy said in the interview in the article that was put out by Deadline.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, G&G. Y'all need to do a better job.
You need to do a better job wording your fucking posts. That's what you need to do a better job, because the context of your post basically said she's not retiring. But then the freaking rant post or the interview says she is stepping down, but she isn't stepping down.
She's stepping down eventually, but she's not stepping down immediately. I think it's the way it should have been framed.
She's stepping down eventually, but not immediately. And I'm sorry, when you don't put the right context into your posts, and yes, I do admit fault in not reading the article. I will fully admit that I didn't read that article, and that is my fault. But when you also provide a false context, that's also on you as well. So yeah, G&G, get your shit together.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys used to be respectful once. Maybe you can in the future, but it wasn't your best moment.
Let's just say it this way, and then we can close out. In the news industry, it is better to be last and be accurate than to be first and be wrong. Because it takes a lot less time to correct yourself, to be right, than to correct yourself, because then you've got to go through 3 different types of phases of correction. Again, not throwing any shade at you, Orange.
Yeah. 2 months, 3 days of temptation for pizza.
Proud of you, man.
Yep. Haven't gone a day or haven't had any pizza this year so far, folks. And I'm still holding on to that resolution.
Good for you. Really.
And I've been tempted every day with some sort of pizza mention or pizza ad or whatever.
I'm going to ask.
Yeah, hello, Conroy. Good to see you.
Just one small side question in regards to that. Do you regard a calzone as a pizza?
If it has marinara and if it has cheese inside of it, yes, both. If it has both, it is basically the same constitution of pizza.
Fair enough.
And I have not had a calzone either, so.
Fair enough.
Now, I have had mozzarella sticks without marinara.
Well, you can still have mozzarella
sticks. That's not pizza.
With marinara. Yeah, you can have breadsticks with or mozzarella sticks with marinara. That's not pizza. But anyway, moving on
Yeah.
to the next topic.
Yeah, the next one is well, folks, I thought this topic was dead and buried ever since Alec Baldwin, or kind of like Helena Hutchins. No offense to Helena Hutchins, mass respect to you, but everybody's favorite lady killer is back in the news because this jackass threatened to kill a Trump impersonator, and his wife apparently chased this man as well and whatnot. So
Baldwin's wife chased the guy?
yeah,
Are
Hilaria
you
Baldwin
kidding?
also went after the guy too. But yeah, let's get into this.
Oh boy.
Alec Baldwin threatens to snap the neck of Trump impersonator over rushed shooting jokes. Now, this is, just so you all know, from Yahoo Entertainment. We all know that they are bullshit leftist leaning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this, you are going to hear the clear bias in this, and this is the only fucking one that I could come up with to cover. A popular Donald Trump impersonator learned the hard way that Alec Baldwin may not be a good person to stage a prank on after an interaction in New York City nearly turned physical. Instagram comedian Jason Scoop felt the brunt of Baldwin's rage when he rolled up on him dressed as the MAGA leader. You can't even say President Donald Trump. And began making repeated references to the shooting death of Rust cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Now, for me, folks, you could say whatever the hell you want in the name of comedy. Personally, me, I would find the death of somebody that had only died a handful of years ago kind of distasteful.
Mm.
I mean, yes, I even dropped the lady killer joke, and I still kind of have a sour taste in my mouth from dropping that, so to be completely honest. Baldwin, whose involuntary manslaughter case was dismissed last summer, was confronted by Scoop while he was unloading luggage on the street outside his home. It's unclear what exactly the interaction occurred, though a video of the incident was posted to Scoop's social media accounts on Monday. Look at
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin, right? He did that impersonation of me, talking as if he was Trump. It was not too hot, not too good. But look, we're back in office. Scoop can be heard saying in the gravelly Trump voice, referring to Baldwin's own impersonations of the president on Saturday Night Live. It's your favorite president, Scoop continues. Look, Alec, I offer you a total pardon because I want to be friends, right? I want to be friends. I will give you a total pardon for murdering that woman if you kiss the ring. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Baldwin ignores the comedian, but Scoop continues prodding. Alec, if you don't want that pardon for murdering that woman in cold blood, you can call it first degree. Or you can call it first degree. You can call it whatever you want. But it was not good. She's looking down on me right now, smiling. Happy. Thank you for confronting the man who took me out, who killed me. Wow. Scoop, yeah, sure, this is funny to some. But dude,
Sorry.
you're opening yourself up to a major defamation case.
Mm.
I mean, no, don't be sorry for laughing, man. If this is funny, do you laugh? But
Okay, here's the thing: is the situation that's being parodied necessarily humorous? No, but is the fact that he's saying, "Hey, do you want a pardon? I can give you a pardon." That to me is actually funny.
yeah. So yeah, so that's when the 66-year-old actor seemingly reaches his limit. You got a camera on me here? He says, telling Scoop to look him in the eye. You realize my kids live in this building? I want you to know something. I want you to be real careful. If this camera wasn't here, I'd snap your effing neck in half and break your effing neck right here. I'll take that camera and I'll shove it up your ass.
Ass.
Essentially. Yeah, ass. The video ends with Scoop ultimately walking away, but according to the comedian himself, perhaps the wildest part of the interaction was not captured on camera. Speaking to TMZ on Tuesday, Scoop said Baldwin's wife, Hilaria, later chased him down the street and lunged for his phone. On Sunday premiere of the TLC reality series, The Baldwins, the family opened up on the PTSD Alec has suffered as a result of the accidental Rust shooting, with the Emmy winner admitting that he sometimes can't out of bed.
Can't get out of bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone who is close to Alec has seen his mental health decline. Well, yeah, the man just literally threatened to murder a person on the street.
Well, not to mention he did, quote unquote, do exactly that.
He killed a woman.
Yeah.
He killed a woman.
Yeah.
He says in his darkest moments, why couldn't it have been me? I am not touching that, folks. I'm not touching that. I am not touching that. Holy crap, I'm not touching that. The point is, folks, Alec Baldwin, I mean, yes, this guy's a Trump impersonator. He's a comedian. Comedy's not for everybody. Yes, kind of distasteful jokes. Yes, pushing some personal buttons. I'm not a person to really stick up for somebody like Alec Baldwin, but the moral side of me, I know I let him out very little. The moral side of me, folks, I can understand why Alec responded the way he did. However, I do not support how he reacted. Alec Baldwin literally threatened to kill a person.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. After you have already killed a person, Alec, I really wouldn't make that threat. Now, if you were smart, sue his ass for defamation. You are legally acquitted of killing Helena Hutchins. You are legally not responsible for it. It's on public record. You are free to go. So yeah, him calling you a first-degree murderer, as even if it is part of a joke, it's not permitted under the freedom of speech because you are therefore committing a crime of defamation.
Yep.
And yes, if you are saying that that he is a first-degree murderer and that he murdered her in cold blood, it is stated in the court of law he did not.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Alec Baldwin could sue the man. Maybe he should. And that is fucking weird coming out of my mouth. Considering how much I covered the Alec Baldwin situation. I covered it very thoroughly and extensively. And boy, was I pissed when the prosecution fucked it up to the point where they dismissed with prejudice. So, Ambassador, any of your major thoughts on this?
Oh, look, here's the thing. Humor is one of the most subjective art forms that humanity has ever created. And I'm not going to go into some deep dive. Humor is extremely subjective. Some people are going to look at that video and say, "Yeah, that was actually really funny because he was doing an impersonation of Trump, who Baldwin himself did an impersonation of during the majority of Trump's presidency, and even after, if I remember, if recollection serves me." That I think was in good taste. Now, what the comedian was referencing, not exactly. Now, he could come up with something else and say, "Hey, Alec, I can pardon you for X, Y, or Z," but to use something that was so recent and that Baldwin was in fact acquitted of, not the smartest move. Now, I'm by no means the biggest fan of Alec Baldwin. He is one of those absolutely
good actor, shit person.
Tediously obnoxious and just mind-numbingly boring Trump haters or conservative hating celebrities. Let's be candid here. So him being filmed on in the middle of the street as he's unloading a bunch of luggage and being kind of punked on by a comedian, that's funny. But I think the comedian should have picked something a little more less controversial to prank him on, rather than the fact that the case he was just acquitted of a year ago. That's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I have to respond to this. But as for Alec, yeah, I gave my thoughts on that, folks. The comedian's an asshole. I will say that. Alec Baldwin should. I mean, he's entitled to say what he wants, or to say what he wants to say, except for when you cross the line into defamation and law-breaking zones.
Yeah.
You don't get freedom of speech right there. You cease to have freedom of speech. So yes, he can be defamed, or he can be sued for defamation. Maybe Alec should. As for his show, I will not watch his show. I do not believe he should watch his show, or anyone should really watch his show. Nobody fucking cares about him. I could think of a million things to watch instead. I mean, the Raven Awards was on last night instead of the Oscars, and I'd say watch those on OMB Reviews channel. But moving on to our final topic of the night before we get to the Air Force One discussion, Gene Hackman, death news and tribute discussion. So we are going to be discussing some of the news of Gene Hackman's death, and we are going to be discussing movie characters and movies that we have seen him in. So everybody knows that over the week, Gene Hackman was reported dead. It turns out he had been dead for 9 days, apparently.
Him and his wife.
And it's been confusing, man. People say, well, he was found dead, and his wife and his dog. And people were thinking gas leak or carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
Or other reasons. Me, I had my own twisted theories that I would never say online or never even say out loud. Yeah. Believe me. Yeah, they're fucking twisted and disrespectful to the memory of Gene Hackman. So yeah, I quickly dismissed them, basically because I would know that they would have no merit. But I also do look at all the different possibilities, and yes, I will. I quickly dismiss the ones that are beyond stupidity. And one of those, believe me, was one of those possible theories was basically an Epstein connection. And I completely dismissed it because I do not think ever that Hackman had any connection to him.
It's like that myself.
It's inside the realm of possibility. However, it is one of the most extremely unlikely ones, you know. But yes, let's get into this final bit here. Contradictory accounts of Gene Hackman's health in his final months emerge. So this is some of the latest news, folks. This is coming from Hollywood Reporter. Multiple accounts from family and those close to late actor and his wife indicate the couple withdrew from everyone in their final days and weeks. And this was released earlier today. So as the investigation into the mysterious death of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, enters its second phase, following last week's revelations from an autopsy performed after the couple's bodies were found in their Santa Fe home, more details emerge. Sorry about that. More details emerge around their health shifting habits in the final month of their lives from family and close friends of the couple. Hackman, two-time Academy Award winner, Hollywood career spanned 4 decades, and classical pianist Arakawa did not die from carbon monoxide poisoning, Santa Fe sheriff concluded on Friday, ending speculation that the gas leak killed the couple, who were found Wednesday in separate rooms of their home during a wellness check. Both showed no signs of external trauma, police said, but Hackman's pacemaker had sent its last record on February 17th, suggesting he had been dead for at least 1 week before his body was discovered slumped over in a mud room off the kitchen. Over the weekend, Santa Fe County Sheriff Aiden Mendoza repeated that he does not believe there was foul play in the deaths of the couple, who had spent more than 30 years together in the house on Old Sunset Trail Road. Over the weekend, friends and the family of Hackman and Arakawa spoke with members of the press from a handful of publications about his declining health at age 95 and some changes in their communication with family. Daniel and Barbara Lenahan, a married couple who were friends with Hackman and Arakawa for years, and their son Aaron spoke with People about their impression of the couple ahead of their unexpected deaths, explaining that over the last couple of months, Hackman was really slipping there. In recent times, Hackman was especially kind of homebound. Daniel Lenahan told the news outlet. Barbara Lenahan added while speaking to People that around a year ago, the retired actor quit riding his bike through the neighborhood. Aaron explained how Arakawa, who at 64 years old, with more than 30 years Hackman's junior, took extra good care of him in his twilight years. Betsy tried to keep him kind of active and engaged, sharing that Hackman kept his mind active by working on puzzles and doing yoga via Zoom. She was still trying to keep him as active and engaged and healthy as possible. Well, I guess some of it worked. A man lived to be 95. She was very protective of him in terms of COVID-19. So she'd always wear a mask when we'd see her out. This was corroborated by Hackman's good friend, Doug Lanham, who told TMZ that the actor's wife was sure he maintained a strict, healthy diet and saw him order either the halibut or rice paper salmon rather than a big steak at the bistro he owned for years. They were one of the tightest couples I've seen. They seemed like real-life partners, really, really close to each other. And they were both incredibly kind. And they were reserved, but they were real and a lot of fun. Gene Hackman's health appeared to be declining, according to the Lenahans. Arakawa seemed to be the picture of health ahead of her death. Betsy was in perfect health. She was so fit. Barbara Lenahan told People. All of the Lenahans' claims about their famous friend's health decline, however, stand in sharp contrast to one of Hackman's daughters told the press after his body was discovered last week. Leslie Ann Hackman told the Daily Mail last week that there was no indication that there was any problem with her dad's health before his death. Despite his age, he was in very good physical condition. Okay, that's not sharp contrast exactly. She told the outlet. Leslie Ann, one of the actor's 3 children from a prior marriage to Faye Maltese, and her siblings were convinced that a gas leak had caused the death of her dad. That was ruled out by autopsies last week. While speaking with Daily Mail, Leslie Ann admitted that she had not spoken with her father in the months before his death. This is strikingly similar to the situation of Arakawa and her mother, Yoshi Feaster. I don't know. According to a housekeeper who tends Arakawa's 91-year-old mother, who has dementia, regular calls placed her in Hawaii stopped in October, a similar time frame, but the couple of months which Leslie Ann Hackman had not spoken with her father. Betsy had called her mother or hadn't called her mother in months, Keiko, the housekeeper, told the Daily Mail. She usually called every 1 or 2 months. Last time she called was October. We were thinking, what happened? Sheriff Mendoza said on Friday, repeated the investigations are still putting together a timeline of the past few months. A personal calendar found in the house was listed as one of the items removed from the property when a search warrant was executed last week. Full toxicology reported on Hackman and Arakawa are expected in a few months. So yeah, folks. Gene Hackman. Hey, Novus, good to see you.
Good morning. Hope all is well, and I'm coming in loud and clear.
Yes, you are. So yeah, Gene this is the latest news that has come out about Gene Hackman and his death. It's not carbon monoxide or gas leak. The dog apparently there's speculation the dog may have gotten locked in the closet by accident and starved because nobody else could get the dog out because the couple had passed. So yeah. Chat and panel investor thoughts.
You know, when this first came out, we had just heard the news that Michelle Trachtenberg had passed away as well, like a couple days prior to this, or a day prior to this. And then we get the news that Gene Hackman and his wife have passed. Now, Trachtenberg, that's slightly different situation, but I won't go into that because I want to keep focused here. But the fact that you have a pair of actors, one who was obviously in the twilight of their career, one that was still, I would say, semi-active considering her health issues, maybe that being Trachtenberg. The situations almost led to a bit of conspiracy theory here, but to not go down that road, I will simply say it seems rather odd that 9 days passed and nobody noticed that they hadn't been out and about. I mean, I know, yeah, Hackman was in his mid 90s. Arakawa, his wife, was in her earlier mid 60s.
64.
64. So her roughly her mid 60s, or say early 60s if you wish. I'm not one to give a lot of credence to conspiracy theory, but I don't see one here in the terms of it being related to anything current, or maybe even anything old. It is unfortunate that Hackman and his wife have passed. The family has lost a father, I think a grandfather. I don't know if he has any grandchildren, but it's unfortunate all the way around. And I would imagine as the months unfold, we're going to figure out exactly what happened here. Now, it may come out to be nothing by any means scandalous or anything of the sort. But the fact that he was found in the mudroom and she was found in the bathroom and there was a bottle of spilled pills all over the floor, it does lend to the idea that something seems a bit off here. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything definitive in terms of what exactly is off here, but it does seem very odd. And I mourn the passing of another actor who I had a lot of respect for. We have many of his movies in our collection, which a few we're going to be discussing here in a little bit. But in terms of the circumstances of him and his wife's death, I will wait for the people who are actually working on the case to come forward with the evidence before I'm going to espouse any outlandish ideas or claims, because it may come out to be nothing nefarious whatsoever. But then again, it might. We're going to have to wait and see. That's my position.
All right. Novus, what are your thoughts on this?
It's unfortunate that Mr. Hackman, his wife, and his best friend have passed, aka man's best friend is the dog. But
Yes.
it's one of those things where you realize that at some point the human body, the frailty of it, has an end point. And we have Gene Hackman, at this time in history, this time in culture, he was in his 90s, but I mean, he was a cultural icon that played for many, many films. But you should also point out that part of his resume included being a service member in the United States Marine Corps, so he's also veteran as well, for the Americans. But he had a lot of influence in a very interesting time in Hollywood, but he had a lot of iconic films. And yeah, he played some villains at some point, but he also played some very good roles. And if you look at like how actors can get into certain trends of their career, some people start off, where they're doing nothing but like positive stuff, and then they go high into the right where they do all the dark stuff. But he never really did that, and he was always he was very much a professional of his craft. And it's kind of interesting because it seems like he kind of just not a pun or anything like that, but it seems like he faded away over the last like 10 to 15 years, where he really hasn't even done appearances and stuff like that. So I think what's sad is that we didn't get to have sort of a final farewell moment. Like he didn't get an award or like a lifetime achievement award. He didn't come back for one final curtain call. And so unfortunately we don't get that. We do have what he made, but it's a very stark reality, particularly since it came over, the actress's death, who was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and #1. So that was our favorite one with her, that show. But and then there'll be somebody else that dies within the next 30 days, and it'll be back to back with that. So you just have these people that are just ending their time on this planet, and hopefully everything is set for the next stage of the eternal spectrum. But yeah, I mean, Pax Tecum to Gene Hackman and his wife and his extended family, and may he be at peace wherever he's at. But it is unfortunate that we didn't get to see him one final time in a moment of fleeting glory. We'll wait for any official news to come out about the investigation, the events of his death, before there's a comment on that, because it could be anything, and we should be into practice. As a society, we need to get back to the practice of holding judgment until more facts are out. But we'll miss you, Gene. You were a great commander of the USS Alabama.
Yes, he was.
Exactly. Also, I do not have the video of it. I will not play the video of it due to the Oscars. Will most likely the Academy will fucking rip me a new one. Morgan Freeman gave a touching tribute to Gene last night at the Oscars. The only worthy moment of the Oscars, in my opinion.
Agreed.
As for Gene Hackman's passing, it is a tragedy. He lived a full life. I honestly, when I was younger, had no idea he was that old. He was obviously younger than 95, but that puts, this man was born in 1930, so 75, 77, or 75, 76 when, or was it 78 that Superman came out?
78, if memory serves.
Well, he was nearly 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking to myself, wow, looking back, I did not know he was that old.
He aged very gracefully and very well. Let's say that. Yes,
he did. As for movies that I have seen him in, I believe I have seen him in 4 movies. I am aware of him being in many more. The 4 movies that I remember seeing him in is Quick and the Dead.
Good.
A movie called Under Suspicion with him and Morgan Freeman and Thomas Jane. Superman, obviously, and the other Superman movies. What was that other one?
Yeah, he was pretty lethal on Quick and the Dead.
Enemy of the State.
Oh, that was a good one too.
Yeah,
where he played Burrell. That movie was very good. I mean, Folks, that movie basically predicted what was going to happen 4 to 5 years before it happened. Mhm.
Yeah.
The surveillance state, as they call it.
Yep. Yep.
But
Take away all your money, state.
yeah,
That
when it
too.
comes to Gene Hackman's acting, when him playing in the villain in Quick and the Dead, he played that brilliantly. That
Yes, he did.
he had a way with his acting. He was one of those he had range, is what they call it, range, where you could do
Yes.
comedy, horror, western, this, that, and everything else. The man did it. He did it.
Yes, he did.
He was
did
the
it well.
American version of fucking Christopher Lee
Pretty
without
much.
without being a descendant of Charlemagne. But the man
Excellent
was also in the
observations, Warren.
military.
Excellent
Man,
observations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was essentially, or get this, folks, 1946. He was 16. Left home, joined the Marines, lied about his age. He's a Marine.
Golly,
So thank you for your service as well, Mr. Hackman.
yeah, indeed.
So yeah, this dude did a lot of stuff. So when he's in a movie like Crimson Tide, I believe it was.
Yes.
Crimson
Yeah,
Tide.
Denzel
I'm sorry,
Washington.
I have not seen that one.
You need to.
Most likely I will check it out within the next weeks or so. But
Excellent
yeah,
movie.
he has military experience, so he could play that role a little bit more genuinely. Now, obviously, he was playing a Navyman in that one, but yeah, it's like, holy crap, man, this dude was a Marine. I had no idea. Now, my mom is like, lots of actors were in the military, and I'm like, I didn't know that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't.
Clint Eastwood was.
Didn't know that. So shout out to Clint
Mhm.
Eastwood as well.
Yeah.
But
At least
also,
if I recall correctly,
And
I think it was.
fun fact about, I just pulled up the Wikipedia article, so that's the reference. But just since you mentioned about the Marine, it says that basically, 16 at his sophomore year at high school, Storm Lake High School, he lied about his age to a United States Marine Corps recruiter. He was 4.5 years serving as a field radio operator, and it says Hackman was stationed in China, Qingdao, and later Shanghai. When the communist revolutionaries conquered the mainland in 1949, he was reassigned to Hawaii and Japan, and then he was discharged in 1951, and then he moved to New York for various jobs. But it's like you're serving your station, your duty station. Like, oh, yeah, we had to be reassigned. The communists took over, so we're gonna ship you back to Hawaii and Japan. It's like, oh, it's not exactly a normal way to go out. It's like, yeah, they just got taken over. So he probably saw some
he's seen
intensity.
history. He
Intensity.
lived through
Yeah.
history.
Very much so.
But Under Suspicion, have you guys seen that one?
I've honestly never heard of it, but that doesn't mean anything because I imagine there's a fair bit of movies that he did that I hadn't heard of.
Yeah,
So.
this one was basically he plays a slight degenerate, not a. I mean, they're living. It's down in Puerto Rico, and apparently some girls are ending up dead. Some sex workers. Wow, the topics today. And he plays a character who's best friends with Morgan Freeman in the movie. And what turns into a normal conversation ends up turning into an interrogation. And he is the lead suspect. And there are some adult themes in that movie. Monica Bellucci is also in it. She plays his wife in the movie. And I'm thinking to myself, if you guys like a good what's the damn word, serial, where it goes from discussion to an interrogation to an investigation, and and the ending just throws you for a fucking loop. The ending throws you for a freaking loop, folks. and it's like, holy crap, dude! I did not expect the ending to happen like that, and I'm not going to spoil it either for anybody, so they can look for it.
Right.
But yeah, Gene Hackman, as well as Thomas Jane, Monica Bellucci, and Morgan Freeman, y'all were great in that movie. The next movie was Enemy of the State. I mean, who doesn't like that movie? Brill was perfect in that movie, Gene Hackman's character. And he's like, what's the cat's name? Baby. Come on, baby. And he's laughing while he's walking away. And it's like, get the cat. Get the cat. Get the cat. Get the cat. It's like, I'm going to fucking kill your cat.
The cat saves the show at the end of the movie. It's the most important character of the whole film.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
primarily speaking, yeah.
And
You know,
That and the Italian Mafia movie, Italian Mafia restaurant as well.
yeah, played by late great Tom Sizemore.
Yep.
You know, I actually did a review of that movie back, I think it was like last year, and I actually posited the idea that you didn't even need Will Smith's character in the movie for it to work. You could have just had it being Gene Hackman, and it would have worked.
Possibly. But you needed
could-
somebody to kick off the you needed
Yeah.
somebody to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
True, yeah. But
I mean,
that
it could have
could've
been anybody. I mean, it could have been Will Smith, could have been Joe Blow, for all we know.
Well, it could
Hope's
have.
not
It
supposed
could have
to
even
rhyme.
been. It could have been Jason. It could have even been Jason Lee or Lisa Bonet's characters. That could have worked.
Yep. Could have been
So.
either of them too. I mean,
Anyway.
they were
Since you
such
meant-
great movies.
Since you mentioned the enemy, since we're on the Enemy of the State, the same time frame, he was in Get Shorty with Johnny T in 1995. Then he was in The Birdcage. Then he
Yeah.
hit Extreme Measures with Hugh Grant. And a lot of people forget he was El Presidente of the United States with Absolute Power and Clint Eastwood. And then Twilight. And then he did a voice for one of the Ants animated characters.
And he was also in a little known film that actually Madam Ambassador introduced me to called Welcome to Mooseport with Ray Romano.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd only seen trailers of it, but when me and Madam Ambassador were first dating, I think it was shortly, maybe a few months after we had gotten married. She's like, "Well, why don't you watch this? Because I think you really enjoy it." Because she's like, "It's got Gene Hackman, and you really like. We both really like Gene Hackman." I was like, "Okay, let's give it a shot." And it is hysterical. The chemistry between Romano and Hackman is absolutely perfect. And you mentioned The Birdcage. I remember going to see that when I was in high school with Mother Ambassador, and seeing him in drag, he reminded me of a butch version of Betty White. I mean, I know he is not the lead. I know he's not the lead role in the movie. Obviously, he's one of those. I mean, he's one of the leads, but he's not the lead in the movie. He plays the Calista Flockhart's character, Barbara's father. And there's a scene at the beginning of the movie, right after she's talked with Armand and Val, and the way they framed the shot, there's a massive painting of him as his character right behind Barbara, played by Calista Flockhart, and you've got Hackman to the other side of her, and it looks like the painting is actually looking down on her, like almost interrogating her. She's getting interrogated by both the portrait of her father and her father himself. But you mentioned Crimson Tide, him and Denzel Washington. Captain Ramsey.
Great performance there
Absolutely.
for both of those men.
Yes, absolutely.
Incredible.
I think that's one of the movies that really kicked off Denzel Washington's career, and you couldn't have asked for a better person to work with than Gene Hackman, honestly. He will always be one of the quintessential incarnations of one of the great DC villains, of course, being Lex Luthor. Honestly, for me, any other Luthor except for maybe the animated version voiced by Clancy Brown, there is no better Luthor than Gene Hackman. Not Kevin Spacey, not what's his face from BVS. Hackman will always be. Now, I will give Nicholas Hoult his chance or anything to impress me. I hope he does. I know not everybody here wants to see that movie. Fair enough. I'm going to go give it a shot because I want to see what this new Superman is all about. I want to see what Nicholas Hoult can do as the new Lex Luthor, but he's got big shoes to fill in terms of following up to Gene Hackman. I know not all the Superman films were the best, but I will say this of Hackman: he always brought his A game when he was playing Lex Luthor.
Any other movies that you could think of that you like from Gene Hackman or Novus? Or
I'll
Well,
mention
just
one other. Go ahead, Novus.
oh, go ahead. Well, it's like well, interesting thing because you mentioned Welcome to Mooseport is because we're browsing the immense amount of his resume with it. But what's interesting about Mooseport is that was his final film acting role, and that was in 2004. And then he got the Cecil B. DeMille Award, and he got it presented in 2003, and it was Michael Caine and the late great Robin Williams that presented that to him. And then people were thinking like, well, is he gonna really be done with his career? And he basically said at that point that he's like, I'm not gonna do any more acting. And then he turned to basically writing 3 books. But then he narrated 2 documentaries to the Marine Corps: The Unknown Flag, Razor of Iwo Jima, and then We Are the Marines in 2016 and 2017.
I think he did that more as an homage to his brothers, to his brother Marines. So
yeah, and I think that whole part about him being in China when the communists took over, I think that's completely changes the perspective probably on him being in the service, because that was like huge as far as an impact. I think we also need to remember that he was in the film Unforgiven. That's a pretty grim guy.
Yeah,
it's like
that's one.
Poor Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman, which of course then is ironic, like in a good way. It's like, oh, Morgan Freeman, he gives him his tribute at the Oscars. Mississippi Burning, we gotta highlight that as a call out. I think that was one. And then another film that we would want to highlight this from the military side is, and a lot of people don't know this because he didn't play a major role, but it was the film A Bridge Too Far. He plays the Polish brigadier general for the airborne support corps that's going to go in, I think, with like the 82nd, the 101st, and he's the Polish general. When the British are presenting their plan, he goes, this plan won't work. If we know where they are, they know where we are, and we're all gonna basically go down. And it's like, wow, this, you mentioned Ambassador about the death. I mean, this guy played, probably a role on both the hero side and the villain side, across the whole spectrum. But even though he played roles that might have been villains, like that's what we talked about earlier. Like some people play, like they get into like where they just completely change their image and like they go like hardcore evil, or like you have, for example, the actress that played Jessica in Saved by the Bell that gave a very wholesome image, and then she goes high and right and goes into Showgirls. It's like, well, you're not going to be on the next animated children's cartoon ever again because of whatnot. But classy guy, did give something back to the country, saw some stuff, but presented his performances on screen masterfully. But yeah, that's what we'll say, and sort of a final wrap out on this point right now.
One other point I'll mention. Even though he played a lot of serious roles and some action roles, I highlighted one of his roles, one of his comedic roles, of course, being the Birdcage. But Get Shorty and his brief cameo in Young Frankenstein as the blind monk in the woods that tries to befriend the monster, but unfortunately ends up causing more harm than good.
Is it Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, the one with the Gene Wilder.
Wait, I was gonna make espresso.
Yes.
I was gonna make espresso.
So, with that, folks, rest in peace to Gene Hackman, his wife, and their pet, their dog. Condolences to the family, Gene Hackman. Thank you very much for your service to our country, as well as your
Talent.
your dedication to the performing arts. There isn't going to be many other people in Hollywood like you. You are one of the last of the best. And you've earned your rest, sir.
Yeah.
So I do want to touch up on one last thing, Anora, the Anora movie. We talked about Mike Madison promoting sex workers in her thank you speech. Turns out that my governor, Kathy Hochul, is congratulating the Anora film on Twitter.
Well, that's not a surprise. The woman has no class.
Celebrating the power of New York City at the movies.
You're a
Yep,
mama.
celebrating the power of whores in New York. The whores of New York. Girl power! You fucking
There's so many
idiot.
memes with that.
Kathy Hochul.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we all know that Kathy Hochul praises the whores. So, with that, folks, we're going to get into a movie discussion that's not about whores. Let's see here. It's an Air Force One discussion. You know, the awesome, cool plane the president goes fly, fly, and whoosh, whoosh around. You know, that one. With Harrison Ford, Han Solo. And, you know, while he was sleeping on that plane for that little nap he took, he had dreams about flying in space with a giant dog person. Yeah.
Sure.
And a space wizard and a weird green elf and this man that was dressed all in black that turned out to be the Russian general.
Vladik.
Yeah.
And of
Folks,
course,
this
And,
movie had a
and
great-
dreaming that his Michigan team would win. Sorry if it's spoilers.
Yeah. I don't know. We're talking spoilers for this one, folks.
this is an old movie.
This movie had
There's
a
no
great
such thing as
cast.
spoilers.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
yeah, I
movie
mean,
had a
you got-
great cast.
Okay.
Gary
I mean, you got-
Oldman,
Yep.
Harrison Ford, Paul Guilfoyle,
Yep.
the freaking Russian or Slavic version of Tim Curry. I can't remember his name. Jurgen
Jurgen Spurgeon.
Spachnow. Jurgen Spachnow.
No, Jurgen
or something.
Prochnow. Jurgen
He's
Prochnow.
the Da
Yeah,
Vinci
Prochnow.
Code
Prochnow.
security guard and fake
Yeah.
watch salesman.
He was also
Yeah.
Duke Leto Atreides and David Lynch's Dune.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he was also
that's a side branch almost right there because he was good in that.
Chief Justice
he was-
Griffin in Judge Dredd.
Yes.
Oh
Okay,
man,
yes.
this is connecting everything.
I mean, yeah,
And
Jurgen
you're forgetting Glenn Close.
Glenn Close as
Yeah.
well.
Madam Vice
She
President.
plays the vice president, and a vice president more competent than the real life one that we had just recently.
Oh, far more competent. Far
She's
more
a fictional
competent.
character.
Yeah,
Oh, and
a fictional
and,
fucking character did a better Democrat than the fucking.
We don't
than the
know if he
current-
was
or the-
Democrat. We don't know if Ford's character was a Democratic president or if he was a Republican president. We just know he was the president.
I think he was an independent.
I will say this: when it comes to Hollywood, it is a general rule of thumb. It may not be openly stated, but it is a general rule of thumb that the party that is in power is a Democrat, because Hollywood is mostly liberal.
Either way, all of the
That's why
presidents.
you had Martin Sheen for 8 years as president, really building up the
Although I
brand.
will say he was actually pretty good in that show on The West Wing. I liked The West
Yep.
Wing.
There was that other show with Bill Pullman as the president where he was talking to this guy who wanted to date his daughter. He's like, you better be careful with her. You better have her home by 10. I have robots patrolling the skies. It's like, wow, dude. That's a dad who will literally fucking sick a goddamn predator drone on your ass if you don't have his daughter home by 10.
Yeah, that is going to be declared an enemy of the state if you fail to do so.
Yeah. But anyway, in this one, folks, the U.S. helps Russia depose or remove a despot, basically, in Kazakhstan.
Yep.
And essentially helping to install a democracy in Russia.
Yeah.
So yeah. Then they end up getting that guy locked up, and they are getting ready to fly home. And Gary Oldman, having a serious hate boner for the president, takes his guys on the plane, and Xander Berkeley from T2, who got a little bit too much in his mouth that night.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Oh
Ends
man,
up being
coming
a
on thick.
traitor to, ends up being a traitor to the president, and orchestrating the whole damn thing. I love that
He
we
was
have
an
enough weapons on
American.
board to invade Panama. But it's like, well, looks like we might invade Panama nowadays. But this movie, folks, if this movie did not influence security policy for Air Force One, I don't know what, or I can't say whether or not it has, but it definitely, or if it didn't, it definitely probably should.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because whoever cooked up this movie, they knew some things that they probably shouldn't have known, but they knew anyway, and they probably made the Secret Service have a few second thoughts about how certain procedures may have been done at the time, but we don't know all the procedures that they do because, well, we're not. I say this as a red-blooded American. There are certain things that we don't need to know. Particularly, we don't need the security protocols around how the president, the vice president are protected, and the presidential family are protected on Air Force One. Just saying.
It's pure fiction, folks. It's pure fiction.
Yeah.
And I don't want to know these sort of protocols because here's the thing, folks. The less we know when it comes to security of our commander in chief, the better, because that way he's kept safe.
Precisely.
I mean, a small little segue to reality, folks. In our current political climate, Marco Rubio, I believe he's our Secretary of State.
Yes.
He was on CNN, and they're like, well, could you give us an example of some of these things that you were going to talk to Ukraine about? No, that's the whole thing about negotiating. Don't freaking tell people what you're going to say to the news. And I love that. I mean, that is just very smart. It's like, finally, we have somebody who's smart.
That's interesting. That's a great observation about it. First off, they probably released like the 1980s Air Force One. Like, fine, go ahead. It's all outdated anyway. But you know, you just mentioned about like not telling everything. I think it was the Chris Christie debate, I think, for the 2016. But he'd asked the question of what he was going to do with the People's Republic of China, and he talks about basically, well, I'm going to take all of our subs, and I'm going to basically put them out there, and and do stuff with it. And it's like, why are you telling people what you're going to do? And why that's what the Ukrainian. I think it was one of the Ukrainian top, which is close to Russia, so it's kind of close to Air Force One in this perspective. But prior to Ukraine going on its offensive, they had a big interview with one of its top generals. And he says, well, I'm going to take like 15 brigades or X amount of brigades, and we're going to go right to Crimea, and we're going to create these avenues of approach, and then we're going to go all in. And the Russians then built like 5 layers of defense, and it just sucked up all of it. And then it ended up, that led on the path. But they said, well, we took his interview at his word, and we just prepared for it. So not revealing everything is a good strategy. Just like
Yeah, it's like
there was a
playing
mole
poker.
inside Air Force One that didn't reveal anything and was a trusted agent for such a long time, unfortunately.
Gotta
This
say,
is like
Gary Oldman was. Go ahead.
Gary Oldman in his part in this movie, he was absolutely brilliant. I mean,
Masterclass.
yeah, I mean, this man, the first time I ever saw Gary Oldman in anything was actually in Fifth Element, where he played the villain of Zorg. I absolutely love
Yeah.
that movie. It's one of my all-time favorite 90s movies, bar none. One of my all-time favorite sci-fi movies, bar none. But him in Air Force One, for a guy who has a very thick British accent, he pulled off, I think, a pretty good Russian accent, to be honest with you.
While he
He did.
yells too, it's not
Yeah,
easy
while
to
he
do while you're
yells.
yelling.
Yep.
That's
No
not
penalty.
easy.
But
That's
also,
not easy.
not only that, to give you guys an idea of why he is such an iconic villain in this movie, it's like when he's going down to talk with the people for the first ransom call or for the second ransom call for the release of General Raddick every 30 minutes, they'll kill a hostage. And the national security advisor comes up and he's like, I can make this all work out. And so the phone rings and he's like, has he been released? We need to be realistic. It's going to take more time.
Bam.
Blows dude's head right off. And he's like, your national security advisor has just been executed. He was a good negotiator. He just bought you another 30 minutes.
Click.
And I'm like,
Yep.
holy
man.
fuck.
I think
I mean,
one of my favorite.
I haven't seen
Go
this.
ahead.
I haven't seen this movie since I was smaller, since I was a kid. And I'm telling you now, when he did that as an adult, it's like, good villain.
Mhm.
Good villain. This
Mhm.
dude is a fucking terrorist. He's not going
Yep.
to fucking pull punches. He's not going to be sympathetic for kids. That scene with the daughter and him, creepy.
Yeah,
As a
very.
kid, you don't really pick up on the creepiness. As an adult, it's like, holy fuck shit, get him away from her. I want to reach through the TV and strangle him
Yeah.
to get him away from the kid.
Yeah,
Well, not to
that sequence on top of the national security advisor execution.
Execution.
It's like he is essentially doing a mental violation equivalent of her to then convert her, and it's shot in a way where you almost think that and it's right in front of her mother, so it's like the ultimate coup d'etat. You've converted the youth, which is very ironically enough, it's the big thing about like the Russian communist regimes. They did, and the Chinese, they convert the youth and they turn them against their elders and their parents. So it's set up where basically he is breaking it down of like, well, this is why I'm not so bad, because your father kills people too. He just uses a suit and a pen in the office, and so he's trying to bring himself to the equal level. And it almost looks like she's about to, but then she has this cold counter stare. This is basically my father's a great man. It's like you're terrible. You're nothing like it.
You're
Like,
nothing like
okay,
my father.
thank God. Whew.
Yeah.
She's not going to be in the Red Guard. Whew.
Yep.
Well, one of the
strong resolve.
Yeah. One of
Definitely.
my other favorite lines by Oldman's character, when he's talking to the vice president played by Glenn Close, he's like, "How's the blouse?"
Yeah. I mean, I'm
he's
pretty sure
he's asking her,
back, so.
"Have you sweated up your blouse yet, sweetheart?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I mean,
she's the only one. I think she's the only woman in the scene. It's like a double strike, because all the other people in the room for that shot they're all men, and it's 1997, so they're from a different generation. So it's like and she's younger, and then she's the only one that holds out against the cabinet that says, hey, we'll declare him incompetent under the circumstances, and you can be president, and we can negotiate with the revolutionary terrorists. So
yeah.
Also, they do show the efficiency of replacing the football.
Yeah.
If you guys know what the football is.
I do know
in
what
30
football
seconds,
is.
new codes are online.
Yep. I mean, it's like the football gets shot. He's got brought down to the pod. Doesn't get on the pod, but shortly after in the situation room, a new football comes in. He's like, old code, or due to the compromise of the old codes, they're now inactive. New codes are active. And it's like, okay, there you go. Football is immediately replaced.
Yep.
And that's how quick they have to act, folks.
Where's the old football?
The old football is useless.
Yeah.
And when
The
a
old
lot of people
football
don't
is
realize
handcuffed
this,
to the ex-football carrier on the Air Force
Yeah.
One plane. It's like, poor guy.
yeah. Now a lot of people don't realize this. When he's talking about the baseball glove, when Gary Oldman, he's like, and his baseball glove. He actually means the football. He actually means the guy that carries the nuclear codes. And it's like, if he wants them back, and it's like, yeah. It just shows you that they don't know everything about the U.S.
No.
But but the thing is with Gary Oldman, he's so masterclass, not only because he does psychological torture, but he also, he'll do this shit. Because when the president starts taking the plane back a little bit, they bring up the press secretary, essentially, and Melanie Mitchell. And it's like, you're a good man, yes. This is for the Secret Service agent down in the cargo bay. You have to count at 10 to surrender yourself, or this lovely, nice lady will die. And he kills her.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah.
It's
Well,
a film where you get an ending that ends well, but it's a struggle to get there. Like you're going through the
Yep.
purification to get there. So it's not all happy, but it's realistic. And we just pulled up the plot with it, but basically what's cool about this film, because you alluded to it earlier, Orange, but basically General Radek is trying. He's a Soviet general. It's couple of years after the Soviet fell, but he's basically has enough political and military capital, and he's based out of Kazakhstan that has nuclear weapons to try to retake the Russian government and reinstitute the Soviet Union. And so we have that cool strike operation in the very beginning. But basically, it's interesting because the film takes place in the 1997. So this is a time when the Russian Federation is actually trying to do something with democracy, and it's very weak. So it's not entirely impossible that something like this couldn't happen. And then also you have the nuclear weapons factor, which is interesting because right after the Soviet Union broke up, there was a period of about 5 years where like, where are the nukes at? Like, and then everybody was saying, like, you could have a terrorist get a nuke from Russia and blow up everything. But it's interesting because basically it shows the US and Russia working together to take out essentially a guy that could reinstitute the old power guard. And then he makes a state visit. And then President James Marshall, it highlights that he's not just a Vietnam War veteran, but he's a Medal of Honor recipient. And you don't get that till later in the film, but it sets it up perfectly. Like, this man's a warrior, and he's just not going to like take the pod out when his personally, this is the women and children factor, but it's like, it's his wife and his daughter. He's like, nope, I'm going to retake my plane. And then we get the line at the end. He's like, get off my plane. He's like, that's the taxpayers' plane, Mr. President. But no, who cares?
Well,
but I also go ahead.
Well, here's the interesting thing too. I mean, this movie is many years after the last Indiana Jones movie, and yet it was one of the top 5. It was one of the top 5 movies of 1997, the year I graduated from high school, which I find interesting because this was during the Clinton years, and this was a representation of a president that I think a lot of American people could have gotten behind. I mean, yeah, it's Harrison Ford. We all love Harrison Ford, even now. It was a shame that he couldn't host the Oscars because, unfortunately, he had shingles last night, or he had been diagnosed with shingles because he was originally supposed to. He was supposed to attend. Okay, he was just supposed to attend. Excuse me. Thank you, honey. Anyway, he was going to attend. It was Conan O'Brien who hosted, obviously. But anyhow, this really showed that Harrison Ford still had star power outside of the two franchises that he was most well known for. That, of course, being Star Wars and Indiana Jones. It kind of built him up as kind of a 90s action hero, which isn't necessarily inaccurate because he's always been an action hero, just this was in a different genre. And it showed that Ford could put butts in seats for something other than Star Wars or Indiana Jones. And he did it well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
One
think
of
you
the
have.
things
I
that-
think you have a great point on that with Harrison Ford. I also like to
Mhm.
point out that the film was directed by Wolfgang Peterson, who made
That's
Das
nuts.
Boot, The Never Ending Story, and In the Line of Fire. You got Jerry Goldsmith, who's doing the music. But the film had a budget of 85 million, and it
Mhm.
grossed 315.2 million. So we talked about, I think, last 2 weeks about the deficit of some of these films that come out, how there's no way they'll make budget. This is 1997. We hadn't reached $7 trillion yet in the United States budget, but basically, this film made a profit. And as you
Very,
said,
very
Ambassador,
substantial.
you got a star. But it's also interesting because it was Sony Pictures that released the film and distributed it. So it's got an element that it's not completely, ironically enough, it's not completely 100% American made. It's got an international backing, which might be why they stuck to a classic story, and they didn't try to do anything. It's not a domestic presidential film.
Not
It's a really good
necessarily.
film that shows like the office of
it
the president.
also does a good job at showing the challenges of a president in a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
When when they're doing the countdown on Melanie before Gary Oldman pulls the trigger, you see him struggling with the decision. You see him getting ready to go in, but then stopping. You see him ready to or being like, God damn it, what do I do in this situation? It's not what do I do? I don't know what to do. It's what do I do? Do I go and surrender myself or do I try to kill everybody? It's that situation. It is the fight or flight situation, but not flight away from running away. It's the one is you're fighting all of them, or two, you are giving yourself up. But you are also weighing the options. It's a very hard decision. This is something that the president has to do on a humongous scale if you are a wartime president, such as George W. Bush, President Barack Obama, and, well, the last president didn't have to make those decisions because he wasn't the one making the decisions. This has been
Verified.
you're in, or if there's a war going on, you have to gamble with lives. You have to knowingly send some people to their deaths. You have to knowingly, or that people are going to die with the decisions you make. Can you make those decisions knowing that? The decision, one life for 50. The decision, one life for possibly millions of lives. Can you make that decision? It's an innocent life. Can you make those decisions? These are the decisions that presidents have to make. And unfortunately, we had one over the last 4 years that had no problem wasting U.S. assets and other stuff. I mean, Afghanistan was a complete debacle.
Yeah.
But in this movie, you also see how he fucks with the terrorists as well, dumping fuel and whatnot. I love how he's on the phone telling his war room what to do. And it's like, it's your lucky day. What you afraid they're going to tell the F-15s to fire at the plane? And she's like, he's talking to us. And is like, We can't do that. The president is up there to his head. They want us to do that to Air Force One. He's not asking. Your commander in chief has just given you a direct order. Do it. I love that scene. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
He's like,
I'll tell you.
Sir, are you sure that's what you want me to do? Yes, and let's hope it works the way it's supposed to. Give me some room, folks. I've just been ordered to fire on Air Force One. And there's so much weight in that. It's like, I've been ordered to fire on Air Force One. But you could tell that this dude is like, I cannot believe that I had to fucking say that. And you see the chaff and everything. And I love how they're like, they just fired at us. You know? Are they
I'll tell you
fucking crazy?
One of my favorite scenes is actually when Ford's, what was the president's name in this? I can't remember. Marshall? President James Marshall.
James Marshall.
When he actually calls the White House switchboard and
that's great.
The switchboard agent, who I think, no, it's not that actress. It's a different actress. But she's like, "You want to start an internet? You want to get in trouble?"
Diana Bellamy. She's the.
Yeah.
I got her case out of this. Fine by me. And I love how she's tapping keys when she says it.
And she's like,
oh
Mr. President, is that you?
Like, oh my God, I'll put you right through, Mr. President. And it's like, oh, yeah, fucking, are you serious right now?
Well, no, she does. I mean, she does an excellent job. She's doing a job. She's like, if you have a call for the White House, you need to call this other line. He's like, follow your procedures. You have someone impersonating the president. It's a crime. She's like, fine.
Trace the goddamn call.
Trace the call. It's like, oh my God.
I'm
you're
the
from Air Force One.
It's like, trace the goddamn call. Okay.
He's like trying to muffle it because he's got the Russian in the cargo hold with him as well. He's not trying to talk to you. He's like, trace our call.
Your standard operating procedure and trace the goddamn call. Yeah.
There is
that's
one of the great things about this movie. It has a good sense of levity, even though it is very intense at times. It does have those breaks of levity that does cut the tension, but then the tension gets ramped right back up. And it's not always easy to balance humor in an intense action movie like this. It can go very bad. It can go very badly. It can be very badly mishandled. But this is an example of where you have humor interjected to cut the tension at least a little, but you still keep the tension imposed upon the audience. It's almost similar to what they did with, well, I think one of the best examples would be Die Hard, the original Die Hard. That was a movie that was very intense with its action, but had a good balance of humor to counterweight the intensity of what was going on in the situation. You've got terrorists, essentially, or in this case, very high finance and very sophisticated bank robbers, holding a bunch of CEOs at Nakatomi Plaza for ransom, even though they're not really after. They're not after any socio-political points. They're just there to rob the joint.
I read about them in an article in Time magazine.
Yeah, Asian Dome. I read about them in Time magazine.
Now
we will never have another Hans Gruber ever. I mean, sadly, Alan Rinkman is no longer with us, but damn, did he give a good performance in that. Okay, I'll quote this one line, and cancel Christmas.
Yep.
If you know that quote, you know that quote.
Oh yeah, Prince of Thieves.
Well, we have the unsung hero in Miss Melanie Mitchell, who played the deputy press secretary on the plane, and she's like, "Oh, we can send a fax." He's like, "If this works, Grace, you're gonna get Postmaster General," and it worked.
I love that. Yeah, the woman that comes in, she's like, "The fax machines. I told you the phones don't work. Voice or faxes are on 2 different levels of encryption," and it's like, this works, you're going to be Postmaster General.
She literally
like, oh my
saves
God.
the president of the United States. It's
Yep.
that woman right there.
Yeah, because
The
you don't
little
know if
admin
it's going to
foot.
work or not. Yeah.
Okay.
You
I
don't.
do have a question. Now, obviously, Oldman's character and his whole gang get killed. They get knocked off on the plane, and then they're doing the rescue operation. Did you all find the corrupt Secret Service agent played by Xander Berkeley tacked on and unnecessary, or do you think that was a nice little final bit of tension and everything to cap off the movie?
I thought it was a good final bit. It was a good bit
Okay.
throughout because you know that, or early on, that he's a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that they did it, or he was a good foil because you see him throughout, and it's like you really can't hide who is the bat or who the person is. You really could have. I mean, they didn't have to show Xander Berkeley betraying everybody and shooting the three and then launching the smoke. No, they could have done clever editing and shown somebody tossing in the gas grenade or the smoke grenade to trigger the Russians. But they instead actually showed you who it was.
Yeah.
It was an interesting. I mean, that is the one thing I would change, because it'd be like, who is the spy? You know, it would have been a really good. It would have been a really, really good.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. But
really
even
good
so,
mystery.
yeah, because even so, even the way they carried it off, yeah, I agree with you. But I think they could. Wolfgang Pearson is a guy that knows how to build tension and suspense. Just saying, man, the man's resume speaks for itself. So
I think what you've got is that because he laid it out where like the final culmination of the insider threat in the Secret Service like is finally like the big climax comes at the end. And that's, I think, that's what's kind of the cool part about it is that he's bad, but he's on the good guys team, at least publicly throughout the whole film. But I think also what was good is that we didn't know how Gary Oldman and his Russian, terrorists and revolutionaries, we didn't know, like they didn't bring anything on the plane. They didn't actually have any weapons. The whole plan hinged on that deep plant. And that guy, when he says like, I trusted you, Harrison Ford's like, I trusted you. He was like, yeah, so will the next president. So this guy probably had been in the Secret Service for a long time. So he probably means he was a Soviet agent that got planted, like in the show The Americans. Like, so he probably
candidate.
Yeah, he was a deep plant that the Soviet government did, where they would basically take their citizens and they'd get them into the KGB or they'd get them to spy networks, and they'd be like normal Americans, and then they would try to infiltrate ranks. So he had been in that probably for a couple presidents because he was trusted, but he lit them on the plane and armed them. And then even though we know that, okay, this is a bad guy, he doesn't make the final punch until the very end, where he basically says, now I'm going to take you out. And, too bad for you. But, they could do a sequel because technically, did he probably die? Most likely. But he could have made it. They could have do a sequel. Yuri's Revenge.
No,
Yuri's Revenge?
This is one of those that doesn't need a sequel. It's a good one-off. Leave
That
it
dude
alone.
freaking died in the Caspian Sea.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
Did.
This is when they actually had, like, real standards of metric that said, if the plane goes down, there's not going to be a ray force where she stops the TIE fighter single-handedly.
That dude was literally going like this against the door or against the open door as the plane hit the water. Not only that, that would have dislodged him right then and there. And
that's true.
The velocity of skin hitting water at that speed is like skin hitting gravel on a highway.
Yep.
You are or your face is peeled off at that point.
You're dead.
The actual Air Force One plane did pretty well with the landing. I mean, that's one tough plane.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's still busted up, too. I mean, yes, it did its cartwheel, but it's still busted up. I mean, but what let's see here. What was the last bit I wanted to talk about on it? Right. When they actually get Marshall, or when he sends as many of them off the plane as he can before they get caught, and he calls back, or Gary Oldman calls them, and it's like, we're about to cross the border into Kazakhstan. If you violate our airspace, I will execute a member of the first family. Now, this dude at that point had already proven he will not hesitate to kill a person. And he did so twice. He did so without hesitation twice. And so when they're like, tell our fighters to back off immediately, I love that moment, because it's like, this dude's not kidding. They violate the airspace, daughter goes first. Because that's how dark this dude is.
It will execute.
I mean, that's my theory.
Family.
He would have killed the daughter right then and there. So here's another question. All right, we're at the 2-hour mark. Time to rate this film out of 10. How would you guys do it? We'll start with Novus first.
We're gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I mean, it was overall a great movie. It's got it has the iconic theme, and it's hard to come up with a movie about the president of the United States when the compromise of security happens. And so you look at all the ways they could have done this. They picked Air Force One. It's like, how are you going to get aboard Air Force One? And then they lay it all out. It's realistic. It's feasible within what we know. And you have some excellent scenes that portray the drama of a full spectrum of action. There's tragedy, there's triumph, there's agony. The president actually has to go through a little hero's journey arc because he realizes he could lose everything. And a final illustration we'll give on that, for the 8 out of 10, there's a whole nother story that's running parallel, that essentially the cabinet, and Dean Stockwell, he plays the defense secretary. So you have the Secretary of Defense essentially trying to lead at some point a small coup d'etat to get the cabinet to agree that the president is incapacitated in his official role, because they're like, and you mentioned it earlier, Orange, he's like, he is making these decisions as a father, Catherine. He's not making them as the president. If he releases Radek will take over the government of Russia, and we will lose Russia. And so these are strategic implication stakes. And Glenn Close, as the vice president, holds the line, and it ends with the final triumph of the president when everything works out, before they realize the plane's out of fuel. But at the moment when everything seems like it's good, she rips the paper that just needs her signature to declare the president incompetent and take over. And so you have all this stuff. Everybody does a very good performance. It's B+ and up, and it's got some great liners. It's like this: the president will get his baseball back and play catch with this guy's cajoles. So we give it 8 out of 10, which I think is the highest you can get for just a released film. And it'd be nice to see. Maybe they could do it aboard a ship. Who knows? But you've got the USS Missouri 4 under siege for that. But yeah, 8 out of 10. Really fun film, and a great cast.
All right, Ambassador.
I'm more than happy to agree with my esteemed colleague, Novus. I will give it a slightly higher ranking, though. I will give it a 8.5 or maybe an 8.8 out of 10. Just for the simple fact that it's Harrison freaking Ford. And honestly, this was one of his last, at least in my opinion, one of his last really good, entertaining movies that had no flaws, had no agenda, had no issues, was just good, entertaining, was him in his element as an action hero, and that's pretty much those are my thoughts. This was Harrison Ford's last really good movie, because I don't count the last two Indiana Jones, and I certainly don't count The Force Awakens. That was not Han Solo. That was handless Solo.
Yep.
Or
As for me, objectively speaking, this movie is about an 8.5. It's got good writing. It's got good action. It's got good score. It's got good story. There are a couple of editing hiccups. There's a couple of things that I would have done a slight bit differently. But for the most part, that movie is solid. Subjectively, I put it at a 9.0. Great movie. A little bit long, but still good. As for moviegoer, where it's not breaking it down, it's simply by entertainment value alone, that movie is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
So, as for that, folks, that's going to be the end of the stream tonight. I'm going to get to bed because I'm getting tired. Y'all have a wonderful night. Remember, tomorrow is the theme stream at 1 p.m., The Madness of Clyde Shelton. So definitely stay tuned for that, 1 p.m. Then the bar room at 9. Is there anything anybody else wants to plug before we get going?
Nothing on my end. I already did my plug at the beginning, so I'm good.
Novus?
Everybody have a wonderful week. Novus Renaissance, we are the home of the supernatural fantasy series of Pre-Float Earth, Door of a Door at novusrenaissance.com, the book, audiobooks, merch. And I'd like to thank Orange and the ambassador. It was a great stream and really enjoyed Air Force One. And everybody stay blessed this week and watch your six and make it to the next week. Thanks so much for having us.
All right. And with that done, folks, you all have a wonderful night. And always remember to stay humble.
Are you done? Are you done?